Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're starting with a statistic that's, well, pretty staggering. Over 1.3 million driver's licenses suspended in Texas.
Yeah, it's huge.
All because of a program that one expert we looked at basically calls an unconstitutional revenue-generating scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So today, we're digging into the Texas Driver Responsibility Program. Our sources suggest it's put millions of Texans into what some are calling double jeopardy.
That's right. And for this deep dive, we're going to unpack how this whole thing works. You know, the money side of it, the constitutional arguments swirling around it.
And the real impact on people's lives.
Exactly. The actual consequences for folks across Texas.
Okay, so our mission for you today. Pull out the key nuggets from our source material. That's excerpts from Texas Suspends Over a Million Driver's Licenses.mp3. We want you to really get what's going on here.
And maybe why it's been so tough to change.
Yeah. Get ready for some maybe surprising facts, hopefully some real aha moments for you. So let's kick off with the name itself. The Texas Driver Responsibility Program. Kind of ironic, wouldn't you say, given what our sources describe?
Definitely has an Orwellian ring to it, as the source material points out. At its heart, it's basically like double taxing people for traffic tickets.
Double taxing. How so?
Well, think about it. You get a ticket, maybe speeding, maybe no insurance. You deal with the court, pay that fine, right?
Okay, yeah.
Then the state, completely separately, slaps on this extra administrative surcharge. It's not part of the judge's decision or anything. It comes later.
Ah, okay. So is that where the double jeopardy claim comes from? Paying twice for the same thing, once in court, once to the state admin?
That's precisely the argument laid out in our sources. You've settled up with the court, theoretically paid your debt, but then boom, another penalty from the state for the exact same violation. And get this, these annual surcharges, they're often way more than the original ticket cost. The material suggests the average is around $2,000.
$2,000 annually.
Annually, yeah. Which you can imagine is a massive hit for a lot of families.
And the consequence if you can't pay or you're late.
License suspended, that's the hammer.
Yeah.
And it's happened to over 1 million Texans, according to the sources. It's described as draconian in the material.
So what does that really mean for someone losing their license? I mean, beyond the obvious inconvenience. Could affect you, right, if you've ever had a ticket.
Oh, it's way beyond inconvenient. It can totally upend your life. Think about it getting to work, taking kids to school, doctor's appointments, groceries.
Right. Need a car for almost everything.
Exactly. So losing your license often means losing your job, falling into debt. It just spirals, especially for people already struggling financially.
It just seems wild that a program called completely unconstitutional by folks in our sources could have been around since 2003. How did it even get passed? And why is it so hard to get rid of?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Our sources, especially this former deputy sheriff, Eddie Craig, he points to some key things.
Okay.
First, he argues these surcharges aren't decided by a judge or jury. They just get tacked on after the fact. No judicial review of the amount the state gets.
So outside the court system, essentially.
Right. And second, the amount collected is separate from and often way above any fine limit a jury might set in the original case.
Okay, that seems problematic.
But here's maybe the most critical point from the sources. The argument that the whole legal basis might be wrong. Craig contends the program was legally meant only for people engaging in transportation, like commercial drivers, truckers.
Not just regular people driving to work or the store.
Exactly, not the general public who are just traveling.
Yeah.
But the state, the argument goes, is treating everyone like a commercial operator just to levy these heavy fees. That distinction, it potentially undermines the whole program's legitimacy.
And the sources mentioned something called a bill of pains and penalties. What's that about?
Yeah, that's a constitutional term. Basically, the Constitution, both state and federal, forbids the government from passing special laws to punish specific people or groups without a proper trial.
Like singling someone out for punishment outside the courts.
Precisely. You can't just be declared guilty and penalized by a legislative act. And the argument from the source is that these surcharges act like a forbidden punishment imposed administratively without a judge or jury deciding guilt or the penalty amount. And that ties right into due process, the idea that fundamental fairness and legal procedures are being bypassed, even potentially for those commercial drivers it was supposed to target.
That's a really strong legal challenge. So again, if it's potentially so flawed, why is it still here?
Well, follow the money, right?
Yeah.
That's what the sources strongly suggest. It boils down to revenue. And the human cost, that seems to get lost in the shuffle. This isn't just abstract legal stuff. People's lives are caught up in this.
Which brings us to the human stories, which are just devastating. Our sources talk about people paying these things off for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
There's one story about a 28-year-old mom. Her sister had passed away. She was driving her sister's uninsured car, got pulled over, paid the ticket right away.
Okay.
But then months later, she finds out about these surcharges she didn't even know existed. License gets suspended. She loses her job delivering pizzas. And for 10 years, she spent thousands trying to sort it out and get her license back.
Wow. 10 years. That's just crushing. And the way the Department of Public Safety, the DPS, handles collections makes it incredibly tough.
How so?
Well, the material explains that just 30 days after a citation is filed with the court, DPS can start demanding these fees, even if you haven't gone to trial yet, even if you haven't been convicted.
Wait, really? Before you're even found guilty?
That's the claim. And good luck trying to get DPS to back off, even if you later win your case or it gets dismissed. It's compared to civil asset forfeiture.
Where they can seize property.
Right. Suspected connection to crime, no conviction needed sometimes. Here, the expert argues, they're doing something similar with your money taking it, or trying to, without a judge saying you're actually guilty.
And navigating that system sounds like a nightmare. We heard about someone in the source material, someone looking closely at this who went through it personally. A $2,000 surcharge, uninsured truck, had to make installment payments for 3 years, always with the threat hanging over them. Miss one payment, lose your license.
Yeah.
Can you just imagine the stress?
Yeah.
Especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck.
It's immense pressure, constant anxiety.
Yet, despite all these stories, these legal arguments, our sources say there's major political pushback against getting rid of the program.
Yeah, it seems entrenched.
There's this quote, pretty blunt, from Representative Joe Pickett, a Democrat from El Paso, speaking at a Texas House committee meeting. Our source material quotes him saying, "We're the government, and we're not going to give up the money."
Wow, just laid bare like that. And the reaction to that quote in the source material, intense. Someone actually accused the representative of treason, which, it shows the depth of the anger and frustration. People feel the government is choosing money over their rights.
And the language used in the source material to describe this frustration is really strong.
Yeah.
Comparing the situation to redcoats, calling the government a mob boss stealing money, even using words like thugs, thieves, and crooks.
Yeah, very visceral language. It really conveys that feeling of being exploited by the system.
It shows how raw this issue is for people affected by it.
And legally, to circle back, the sources keep hammering on the limits of DPS authority. They point to the Texas Administrative Code, this bill SB 971,
Right.
arguing that these documents clearly state DPS's job is regulating commercial traffic for hire stuff, not everyday citizens just traveling. So the claim is they're applying these rules illegally to the general public.
So if the program is seen as illegal or unconstitutional by critics, what about fixes? Are there any solutions being floated?
Our sources mention things like lower fines for low-income folks, maybe under $27,000 a year, or deals for paying up front.
Yeah, those ideas are mentioned, but the expert in our sources basically dismisses them, calls it unequal application of the law, or like an income tax under another name.
So tinkering around the edges isn't enough.
Not according to this view. The argument is the whole foundation is rotten. It's unconstitutional, they say, so it shouldn't be tweaked. It should just be repealed, period.
It's really striking, isn't it, how these legal arguments, which seem pretty clear from the source's perspective, just slam up against this political reality driven by, well, money.
Absolutely. And it connects to a bigger picture, too. This driver responsibility program isn't happening in a vacuum.
What do you mean?
Well, our sources mentioned the Department of Justice has actually targeted Texas courts before for creating what they call debtors' prisons.
Jailing people because they can't pay fines. Exactly. Jailing them for not paying fines, even when the original offense itself wasn't something you could be jailed for. And part of that issue, allegedly, is courts denying people their right to assistance of counsel, a basic Bill of Rights thing.
So people can't get lawyers.
Effectively, yeah. Which pretty much guarantees they get convicted, because who knows how to navigate the system alone. And then, can't pay the fine, off to jail.
So for someone caught in this driver responsibility mess, with all these alleged issues around due process and legal help, what are they supposed to do? It sounds like the system is stacked against them.
Well, the course of action suggested pretty bluntly in our sources is sue. Sue everybody involved.
And everybody? Like who?
The Department of Public Safety, yeah.
Right.
Other state agencies, Even, the source suggests, individual legislative members. The argument is that officials don't have immunity, qualified or otherwise, when they violate the state or federal constitutions.
So fight back through the courts on constitutional grounds.
That seems to be the proposed path. Not just individual suits, but maybe a broader legal challenge aimed at taking the whole program down.
Looking at that bigger picture then,
Mhm.
it really raises a fundamental question, doesn't it? How do ordinary citizens make sure their rights are protected when, potentially, those rights conflict with the government's desire for revenue?
It's a huge question.
So we've really dug into this Texas driver responsibility program today. We've seen how a system apparently set up to bring in money is facing these really serious constitutional questions and how it's affecting well over 1 million people in Texas.
Yeah, we've explored that key distinction potentially between commercial transportation and just regular travel. We've seen how these fees can get imposed even without a conviction.
Right.
And the personal toll, the hardship for families stuck in this administrative loop is just immense.
So hopefully you've now got a much clearer picture of why this program is so controversial, from how it hits individuals day to day, all the way up to the big legal and political fights over it. And for you, our listener, maybe a final thought to chew on. We're constantly bombarded with information these days, aren't we? In that kind of environment, how do we, just as regular citizens, keep track and make sure our basic rights aren't getting sidelined when money becomes a major factor in how legal systems operate?